Okay, welcome everybody. Today I'm going to be running through how to set up a Arduino as a Corsair Lighting Node Pro. So the main advantage of this is you can use an Arduino with other brands fans. You can use it with LED strips that you can buy from eBay, as long as you like up to 92 LEDs that iCUE supports. Now, this product is a pretty good product overall, and it's available for around about $75 in Australia, which is pretty cheap, really. Considering the Arduino Leonardo board that you need to do this is about $12. By the time you buy the LED strips, which you can get for around about $30 for 5 meters, so it's actually a lot more, and that's 30 LEDs per meter. So it's quite a lot more LEDs that you can use for the same amount of money, but there's quite a lot of time involved and work involved to get this done. Now the Lighting Node Pro is 2 channels of addressable LEDs that are programmable through the iCUE software, because this Pro, or the Lighting Node Pro, plugs into an internal USB header and it can be programmed through the iCUE software, and each channel can control 4 LED strips directly. And then the other channel can also be used to plug into the fan hub. So Zotty's got a bit of a guide on all the Corsair lighting products. So this is the box that we can program our Arduino to. We can also program it as a Commander Pro if you want to. It's a little bit more complex. We're not going to be needing it, but basically this Lighting Node Pro has 2 channels which then can be used directly, so you can plug a fan into each one if you really want to, which should be kind of pointless, but you can string the 4 LED strips together out of one, and then out of the other channel you can go to the ARGB hub, which is this device. Okay, and on Zotty's guide, so I'll just go back up here. So it's Zotty on the Corsair forums. So it's a Zotty Corsair RGB hardware and iCUE ecosystem FAQ. So this is a pretty good guide just to understand what all the products do, etc., and how they link, then the plugs they use, etc. Right, so this is a pretty standard plug. It's a 4-pin plug for the fan, for PWM, and this is a 4-pin receptacle for RGB control. So that's a standard. I believe this is a 12-volt one here, so it's not the same. So a 5-volt addressable is only 3-pin, and it has one of these pins blacked off, and you only have 3 wires. So you have ground, signal, and positive. And further down here you can see some examples. So here you've got one channel going into 4 LED strips, and each LED strip is connected in series to give you the overall effect. You can connect 8 LED strips, so on and so forth, and then, or you can take one channel from the Lighting Node Pro to the RGB fan hub. Now you can just parallel as many fans off one of these channels if you like, or actually not as many, but probably about 6, through a normal RGB hub. So each fan will do the same thing. The advantage of using the RGB LED hub is that within the iCUE software you can actually sequence each fan in order. So this one can run through a sequence, then this fan can run through a sequence, then this fan can run through a sequence. Now the disadvantage of the Corsair system is that each fan has to be identical, and you have to plug them in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if you go 1, skip 1, and then 3, only the first fan will work. So there's not really a disadvantage, it's just a function of the way the system works. So essentially, this Lighting Node Pro tells this box addressable fans 1 to 10 or 1 to 14 or whatever fan you have plugged in. So each series of fan has different number of LEDs. So SP, HD, and light loop fans all have different number of LEDs. I think it's 9, 12, and 14. So as long as they're all the same type, they'll all do the same effect. So that's essentially, there's nothing stopping you plugging in different fans. You'll just get weird effects. They won't be synced. So that's a really basic sort of setup, and it gets quite complex. You can do pretty amazing things if you get the whole kit and caboodle. Really good guide by Zotty here. I won't play these, but you can have a look. So again, it's not a bad price. It's only $75 for the LED strips and the Lighting Node Pro. It's an all-in-one solution, so this for most people would be the way to go. So, but it's $75 for this, and then another $29 for the RGB hub if you want more than, well, if you want to do fans as well. Again, you can go straight from this into a standard hub which parallelizes all your fans, and they all do exactly the same thing, which is what most of the common cheaper addressable RGB products do. So Corsair is pretty unique in that you can sequence the effects, and you can see this on their iCUE website. So you can see how the fans were flashing in order there. If you can see that again, so it sequences them. So you can do all sorts of really crazy stuff. So I'm not particularly into RGB, but I've done it for my son. And this was just a bit of a school project / project for me. Unfortunately, it turned in more of a project for me because it wasn't something that could be done relatively easily. But so essentially we're making our own Lighting Node Pro with an Arduino. Now, if anyone's not familiar with an Arduino, Arduino is a company that makes programmable boards for any number of projects, and universities use these a lot, along with a PI Raspberry, etc. Now, there's a number of different boards that are available, but the project that we're dealing with needs to use specific type of boards, and it's actually listed on his project page, the boards that are compatible. So this particular project page is called the Corsair Lighting Protocol by Legion 2. But basically, if you search Corsair Lighting Protocol, you'll get to this page, and with Arduino. So you search Corsair Lighting Protocol Arduino, and I'll just show you what I mean. So Corsair Lighting what was it again? Protocol. And just to be safe, Arduino on in, and that should get us. So it's basically the first hit that you get. Now I'll just give you a rundown of what this actually does. So the features: add support for Lighting Node Pro Protocol to Arduino. Control LEDs with Corsair Link or iCUE software. Easy to use fast LED. Supported LED chipsets. So we can open and have a look at that. So the NeoPixel is the one that we most commonly you will find for LED strips, and it's the WS2812. It's the most common one at a reasonable price. Persistent settings for use with USB connections. Use multiple devices at the same time. Repeat or scale their channels to arbitrary size. So this is one advantage of the Arduino. You can have Arduino, the Lighting Node Pro is limited to 92 leads under the best of circumstances. With this, you can actually overcome that limitation. But basically, the software talks by USB to the Arduino, and the Arduino talks to your LED strips. And you'll need custom connections, etc., for these boards, which those instructions are readily available. But basically, you come off your power supply with a number of different types of adapters, often SATA, to power your Arduino and power your LED strips. Now, it's highly advisable not to power your LED strips through your Arduino. You need to tap directly into your SATA or 4-pin Molex. Now, the requirements are a couple of things. So you need to use a Arduino board with the AT Mega 32U4 chipset, and that's the Leonardo, the SparkFun, and the Pro Micro, and the Arduino Micro. So pay pretty close attention to the wording here, because you need to make sure that you get one of these boards with this particular chipset. So the most common Arduino board that you will find basically anywhere is the Uno, and you can use the Uno with this project, but it's a lot more complex, and I wouldn't necessarily go down that path. It's much easier just to buy the Leonardo, which I've got here. So the Leonardo is essentially the same size and shape. It's got a micro USB instead of a type B. So the type B is the bigger printer type plug that most people would be aware of. But essentially they've got the same layout, same mounting holes, which means that you can use the acrylic cases that are available for the Uno. Now, it doesn't quite fit the same because this is obviously a lot bigger, but the acrylic cases that are quite commonly available for the Uno, you can get from, say, JCar in Australia or eBay, and it has to be cut out for type A, and you'll have to file out this a little bit for the micro, because the micro sits very flush with this top bit here, so you need to basically really file that out quite a lot to be able to get your micro USB plug in, because of the bulky plastic around the USB micro plug, and it pretty much sits right up flush against the board. So it's not ideal, but it's close enough, and it stops everything shorting out, particularly in a PC case, etc. But you can use this. The advantage of this is the iCUE software can talk to any USB via external USB. So you can use this for desk lighting, ambient lighting, etc., etc. So there's a lot of different options that you can use LED strips for. So getting back to the project. So again, the prerequisites are that you need an Arduino, you need your LED strips or your fans, and the various hardware required to connect your various devices to your Arduino. But software-wise, you need to be able to program your Arduino. Now, in order to do that, you need to go back to the Arduino website. And I just mentioned the Leonardo board is about $13 on eBay, or a lot more from JCar. JCar obviously has the advantage of they're pretty well all over the place, in Australia at least. But you can probably see the price of a Leonardo here. So it's $30. So it's a bit of a markup, but this would be and this is not actually an original board either. So this is a knockoff. So it's a Dunotech. So it's not an Arduino genuine board either. So, but anyway, to program the board, we need to go to software downloads. Now, we're using Windows, obviously, but don't use the Windows app version. It might be okay for some projects, but for this particular project, you cannot use it. You have to use the standard full and blown installer. And the reason for that is we need to modify the board text file for this particular project, and you cannot do that in the App Store because it's basically really digs right down into the Windows settings and features and program itself. So you can't get to that board text file. Well, you can get to it, but you can't edit it in any way, even with take ownership, etc. Administrator privileges, it doesn't matter. You cannot, no matter, well, at least as far as I can tell, you cannot edit it. So you need to download the full version and use that instead. So once you've downloaded that, installed it, which is fairly straightforward. I won't go into that. Now there are several releases of this particular project. So we're up to 7, which is only a couple of days old. So we can click or download this project, and you can just download the zip file, which I've already done, so I won't go back into that. And you can save that anywhere, and you will need to extract that software. So I've got some old versions here, 6.1, 6.2. This is the current version, 7. So I've extracted that up here, and we're going to dig down into the file, and we want to go to examples. And under examples, this is basically what they refer to the sketches within the folders, and sketches are what you actually upload. That's the actual code for the Arduino. So this project actually covers a number of different sub-projects, but the one we're interested in is the Arduino Pro. You can also program it as a Commander Pro. These other ones, the Hoot Loader, are in relation to if you're using the Uno board and you need to basically hack that. And then you've got a single strip, which is a simpler project, but we're going to be using the Lighting Node Pro. So in this Lighting Node Pro subfolder, we've got an Eno file, so we can execute that file. Which will open up the Arduino software programming application. Now, I've got my board plugged in, but it's not being recognised for some reason, so I'm just going to unplug it and plug it back in. So now I can set on COM 7. So we want to make sure that we've got the COM open. Now, my board has already been used on a number of different projects, so it doesn't have the normal information here, but basically it's a Leonardo. So we can try and upload this straight away, which it should compile. And the reason why it's compiling is because I've got, if you try and do this without doing a couple of steps first, it probably will just crash. So that's actually uploaded. Now, before you actually go to this step, you need to go back to the prerequisites, and you need to install a couple of libraries. So install the library. So use the library manager to install this library. Now, this library, okay, that really threw me, because nowhere in here does it actually tell you where the library is, how to get to it, etc. It also tells you to install the fast LED library. Okay, so there's two libraries we need to install. Now, without these libraries installed, this project won't even compile. So ours compiled and uploaded straight away. But it won't work unless you have those libraries installed. So to install those libraries, you need to go back to your Arduino software, go to Manage Libraries, which will bring up a library manager. Now, this is basically links, it's looking online, and it says these are all the active libraries that you can use. So the first library that we want is FastLED. So we want to type in FastLED. So it'll bring up two libraries, and you can see here, and this is where I made a mistake, you can see here it's very easy. I don't really like the way this works, but basically this is the library you want, FastLED by Daniel Garcia. So we need to install that. But what typically happens is when you search for this, you drag your mouse down here, it goes down there, and then you straight away onto this other library. And it's very easy to install this version, and you can see that I've installed it and I actually don't need it. So this is the one that you need, and you need to install that. So it's FastLED by Daniel Garcia. So you need to install that. So you would normally select on this and just click install, and it will install. The other library we need is, and going back to his page, this library. So what it should say is this library, and then give you some sort of instruction on how to get to it. But basically it's the Corsair Lighting Protocol library, which sounds obvious enough, but it's not. So we're going to type in here Corsair, and we just need to type in Corsair, and you can see that's installed. So you need to install that and make sure that's installed. Now you can check that they're installed by going to the library and seeing that they're installed. You can also type installed here. And just leave that blank. So you can see I've got a number of libraries installed. A lot of them are default by just installing the program. But towards the bottom here you should see, well, they're actually alphabetical, but if I type in FastLED there, eventually it'll come up that I've got it there. There it is there. So that's installed. The other way to check is to go to Tools, if you go Include Library, right down the bottom you can see I've got Fast Lab and Corsair Lighting Protocol libraries. And I can actually open up those straight away from there. So you don't have to go digging back into your files where you save stuff. Once you've added the library, it's there. Okay. Now, so I've actually uploaded that. So once it's compiled, you've got that information in there. I've uploaded it. I've downloaded iCUE software. So that's from Corsair itself. So you want to download that software. And when we run that software, no device detected. Okay, so we've uploaded the sketch onto the board and it doesn't work. So that's a bit of a problem. So what's the issue? Going back to our project website, we've installed the libraries. Okay, so now we have to create the Lighting Node Pro. Open the example Lighting Node Pro. There's more information about how to wire it, how to set up the LED code, LEDs in code, see the links, etc., etc. To verify the library works expected, open Windows devices, connected devices. Somewhere in the list of devices, there should be a Lighting Node Pro. Now, I know for a fact that this is wrong because you won't ever find it in there, but it will show up in other devices here. So if you go to Bluetooth and other devices, it will show up in here. And if it doesn't show up in here, it's not going to be detected by the software because it just doesn't recognize it. So in order for the software to be recognized, well, for the hardware to be recognized as Lighting Node Pro, there's a couple of things that you need to do. So the library uses a HID or human interface device set interface, and it needs to see the hardware. In order to see the hardware, it needs this says use multiple devices, but actually implies to even use a single device. We need to change the serial number of the device. We don't need to change the device ID unless we're using more than one Lighting Node Pro. So we don't need to do that step. I will go through that at some stage. In fact, we might do the device ID first. So in the project file, under examples, you've got a device ID sketch. So we can upload that to our device. Compiling. So I repeat, you do not need to do this if you're only doing one Arduino. Okay, so I don't have the right board selected, so I've got to select the right board. So now I've got my board selected and try again. Okay, I've lost the connection, so we'll have to try it one more time. Okay, so let's work this time. So going back to the instructions again. So I've used the device ID sketch and then open serial monitor with the baud rate 115200. The tool displays the current device ID. You can type in a new device ID that is saved on the Arduino. After that, you can upload another sketch. So going back here, go to our tools, go to serial monitor. BaudCom07 is not available, so this is one thing that drives me insane about the Arduino, is it keeps changing the COM ports. So change the one that's connected again, serial monitor, and we can see our current device IDs FF, 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 FF. And it says here, set up a new device ID by typing in the serial monitor. The new device ID must be the same format as above. 4 blocks with 2 digits separated by a white space. So you simply would just put in AA, well, it's got to be in the right format, AA, 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 if you want to, and then you click change this baud rate and then you would push send. So I'm not going to do that because I don't need to. Alright, so that's one part you need to do. The other part was change the serial ID. Okay. Now, it says here each device must have a unique ID. You must give each device a unique ID. There are 2 IDs that must be changed: the serial number and device ID. The serial number can be changed in the baud text file. So that's a big hint. Baud text file. Uncomment the line with serial number and change some characters at the end. Don't change the length and only use hex characters. So that's one sentence, which doesn't really go into a lot of detail. But after a fair bit of research, the baud text file. So on closer inspection on the file that is provided with the examples in the Lighting Aid Pro, you'll see a baud text file. And you'll see some information here. So it's basically what they want you to do is add this information into the baud text files. So we need, essentially we're going to create a custom baud layout or programming, a custom baud within the software. So if you go back to the Arduino software and you go to tools, boards, you see all these boards here. These are all different makes of boards. And this is our board. So we're going to create a new board. Now, in order to do that, we need to find the configuration file that has this list. Now that list is under where the Arduino is installed. So it's under C, Program Files. Okay. C drive, Program Files 86, Arduino, Hardware, Arduino, AVR. Now, when you first go to this, there's only one text file. So these are my text files that I've been playing with. Well, there's actually 3 text files. It's the platform, programming, board's text file. So this board's text file is the original file. So this lists all the different file types, all the different board types. So you've got the Uno, etc., 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 the Nano, the Mega, etc. So I've made a copy of this file. Now, you will need to change your permissions on this folder in order to change these files. So in order to do that, we need to go to the folder, go to Properties, go to Security, Edit, click on Users, and you want to tick the box Full Control. I've already done this, but you want to tick that Full Control box, which will tick all these, and click OK, which will give you permission to save and rewrite over this file. All the files in the directory, actually. So once we've done that, you can make a copy of the board and call it original, so you've got a backup. Once we've made a backup, we need to open the file and find your board. Now, I'm using a Leonardo, so if you're not using a Leonardo, you need to find the board that you're using. So Control F, oops, Control F, Leonardo. So this is essentially the configuration for the Leonardo Arduino. And we're going to copy all this. Now I could just insert it right here, but I'm not. I'm going to insert it right up the top. Okay. Now that's all fine. But now I've got two files, or two boards basically the same name. So I need to rename this Leonardo to something that we would recognize. Now, I've actually got it open twice, and I don't know which one is which now. So this is the good one. Close it. So I'm just going to save this. Make sure it's saved. But yeah, so I need to change this Leonardo descriptor in front. Going back to the project file. So this is the project file that we downloaded earlier. Go back to the examples, go back to the Lighting Node Pro, open up this board's text file. So they're calling it the Lighting Node Pro. So I'm just going to copy that. And I'm just going to do a find and replace, which is Control H. Just going to close it because I think I've done something wrong. Push the wrong key. So Control H, and I'm going to anything with Leonardo dot, because there's other areas that we want to do. We're going to replace with Leonardo Pro. So I'm only doing this one at a time so I can see which ones I'm replacing, but I want to replace the first name in each line. So replace, 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 all the way down Now I don't want to replace that, so I'm just going to go down. So I don't want to change that one. Let's jump right down to the bottom. I'm going to go back to the top. Okay, so now we've got a new board called Lighting Node Pro. But we also want to change this first line. So I've just lost my files. There we go. So there's a couple other lines that we need to put in here. So this is the file again with the project, and this is our text file. So we've got to find these lines, the vid, which is this one here, and replace that. The PID file. USB product file. Now we have to insert a line here. So just space. And we need the first bit of the code again. And then the second bit of the code. And this build flags we need not the hash sign. So we've inserted those 4 lines. Now there's also code up here which I'm just going to grab and put up there. I don't think it's necessary, but and we're going to copy that and put that here. So this is basically the name of the file, name of the board. So name. We don't want to change anything else. And we want to save. File, save. Okay. So go back to our Lighting Node Pro sketch, and we want to upload that again. So if we get a compile error, we know we've done something wrong with the board file. In fact, I've done one thing wrong here. I didn't change the name of the board. So we want to go Tools. We're going to have to close this software down because we've changed the configuration file. We need to reopen the sketch. We need to make sure our board is on the right COM port. We need to pick up our board. So you can see it now. It's called Lighting Node Pro. Now we've got a space in here. That shouldn't be there, so I've added an extra line. So that shouldn't be there. But that's the board we want. We want to upload it again. Now we should see a pop-up here that says installing your device. Okay, so I'm getting an error. So what that means is my board file, my board text file that I've edited, I've missed something. So we've got to go back to that file and try and figure out what we did wrong. So going back to one I've prepared earlier, I'm just going to compare them quickly. So basically this one I called Leonardo 1 as opposed to Leonardo Pro. And this one works. I've tried it, I've tested it, it works. So this last line. It's got to have that in front of it. So I'm going to save that again. Now I will need to close that file again because I've written the configuration file. Okay, so that's compiled and I hit upload selected. Now you see straight away, set up in new device. We're setting up Lighting Node Pro. So if we go to other devices, Bluetooth and other devices, you now have Lighting Node Pro. Device is ready to use. Okay. So if we open up iCUE, now we have a Lighting Node Pro. Double click on that, lighting setup. So if you've got more than one fan connected, it doesn't really matter. What you want to try and do is the maximum length is the biggest fan. So the light loop fans have the most LEDs, and we can say if 6 fans, that will give us up to 96 LEDs that we can have in series across our devices. And then lighting channels, so you can see this, the fan has the configuration. So you can have rainbow wave. So basically these all fans all synced together, exactly doing the same pattern. So anything under this predefined will do the same pattern. Under the lighting link, this is where you get custom sequential effects. So you can see the colors are different. So this one's yellow, then this one's yellow, then this one's yellow, this one's yellow, then this one is yellow, and then this one is yellow. So that's sequencing the effects from one fan to the other. So you can see it running through the sequence. Now, in order for this to work, you actually need the RGB hub. Because basically it's splitting the addressable LED count 1 to 14, 15 to 28, so on and so forth. So you need to have the RGB hub, which is this device. And that's where you get the sequential effects. So you can have fan, 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 etc., etc. But they all need to be the same type of fan. I hope that makes sense. But for LEDs, we can just set it to lighting setup. So you can just set lighting strip, but this will only give you 10 by 6, that's 60 LEDs. If you set the HD fan, you get 12, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, 12 by 6. So that's 72. If we select the SP fans, you get 6 LEDs. SP Pro fans, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by 6. So you get 54 LEDs. And to get the most LEDs, you use the light loop fans. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16 times 6 is 96. And again, you can have the two channels. So you could have 96 and 96, which is a lot of LEDs. Okay, so that kind of wraps the project up. It's not exactly simple. Going back to the Arduino, you can see the pin outs for your Arduino is pin 2 and pin 3 for your addressables. Again, there's a lot of instructional videos on how to do that already online. Okay, so that's my take on the homemade Arduino Lighting Pro. I know it was a bit slow and a bit boring, but it might help someone. Thank you.